And good evening, everyone, and welcome to OTF Connects. My name is Susan Watt, and I will be your moderator this evening. If you have any questions about how this is working or issues that you might personally be having, you can put those in the chat, and I will do my best to help. I'm a retired educator from the Waterloo region. I was a technology support teacher here for 6 years, and am enjoying some little part-time work now with OTF. It's wonderful. Sandra Chow is our presenter tonight. I think she's got a guest with her that she'll talk to you about and introduce. I heard Sandra's session a couple ago and was really impressed with the creative and thoughtful and mindful work she's doing in her math classroom. I think it's a primary math classroom. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing her again tonight. So Sandra, I'm going to turn my mic off and I'll let you advance to your next slide, which is your official first one. And welcome to all of you as well to this great session.
Hi, thanks, Susan. Can everyone hear me? Maybe just a hands up if you can hear me. Great. So before I start, I just want to put a caveat out there. My own personal Macintosh has been a little bit sick, so hopefully my husband's computer will not have that problem today. I don't actually have a guest with me. I wanted to give credit to my colleague Rhea Foyle, whom I created most of this presentation with, because most of what we did in our classroom together, which I'll share later on, is shared in this presentation. And so I wanted to acknowledge her because she's a big part of this presentation. And if you want to contact her, I have her contact as well. So I'm just going to move forward. I'm just going to introduce who the two of us are. We both really enjoy food, so we created this presentation in the form of a menu, and you'll have an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert. And she likes to say that she's a technology infant, and she is our spec ed teacher in our school. And I'll talk more about her school later on. But she is not a technology infant at all. She is a giant in my eyes. She's taught for over 25 years and is very, very knowledgeable in special education and in many other areas. She's taught kindergarten, she's taught in junior grade. And so I had the privilege of working with her. And she calls me the technology teenager because she thinks I'm a little bit more techie than her, but she really, really is very knowledgeable in many areas. So that's your chef today.
Sandra, can I interrupt for just a second? Okay, it just went away. There's a real hum in the background, and I'm wondering if somebody has their microphone on. And so I'll ask if you just check and make sure that your own microphone is off. The only one that should be on is Sandra right now.
I'm wondering if it's...
Yeah, I still hear it. Could it be anything in your situation, Sandra?
It could be, and is it really bothersome? I'm sorry, because I don't know where to put in my headphones in my computer.
Maybe I'm the only one hearing it. Okay, almost is going away. Can anyone else hear that, or is it just me?
Sorry, I'll try. I don't know where the headphones go, so I'm not sure how to.
Okay, thanks everyone. I think we got it.
Okay, is that all right? Should I go on? Should I continue? Hello, can everyone still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. The hum is still, okay. It comes and goes. Just go ahead, though.
Okay, sorry about that. I hope it's not myself. So I know many of you shared where you are, but if you can share a little bit about what panel you teach or what teaching assignment you have, and perhaps why you joined the session today, that would help me a little bit more even in moving forward. And so again, using that text tool, that's part of your toolbar. And while you're doing that, I forgot to share, I'm actually a junior teacher. I teach grade 4, 5, and 6s most often, and but I do have experience in the primary grades as well. My colleague is a special ed support teacher, supporting mainly the junior grades, but she also supports the primary grades. So our expertise is in the elementary area, but a lot of what we share today you'll see is very applicable in the middle schools and probably in the high schools as well. Oh, thanks for those who came to those earlier sessions. There will be a little bit of repeat, but I'm hoping to kind of expand upon some of the areas and the tools that I used in my first 2 sessions, and hopefully give you more focus on areas of differentiation that we have done. It might have been my house, sorry about that. Okay, we have an instructional coach, librarians. Great, thank you so much for sharing. So hopefully this session can be of help. And again, if you have any questions, just put that in the chat. This is basically what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to share a little bit about the students in our school so you can see the background that we've come from and why we had to really differentiate our math sessions. And then we'll talk a little bit about our teaching practices as well as the students' learning tools that we use a lot of, and then some of our favorite tools that we like to use in our classroom, and then talking a little bit about feedback from our students. So what do we consider as differentiation when we're talking about differentiation? Basically, differentiated instruction in our eyes refers to students with significantly different interests, learning styles, and readiness, and how we can adjust our teaching strategies and how we involve them when we plan our content process and the products that they produce. So that's what we're really looking at when we're looking at differentiated learning. And I'm going to play this video for you, or actually, Susan, if you can actually broadcast it out. You'll hear that one of the students in particular is very difficult to hear. She's very timid and shy, but it will give you an idea of just where our students' backgrounds are from, and these are our customers. Will it be able to play, Susan?
Sorry, I was busy doing attendance. I'm going to run and get that link right now.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So you can probably play it on your own computer and just come back after it's done. It's pretty short.
Yeah, that link should be active, so you just click right on the link in the chat and it will open up your own browser. It'll open up to YouTube in your own browser. We'll turn off your mic, yes.
Okay, I'll let people play it on there. So has everyone finished the video? If you're finished, if you can just put in an emoticon, then I know you're done.
It might actually be better to use the checkmark tool because the emoticons disappear.
Oh, okay. Great. Thanks, Susan. So that just gives you an idea, I see a lot of people are done, of our students. So they come from very diverse backgrounds and also learning backgrounds. So this is our school. It's Joyce Public School. It's a K-6 school of about 284 students in the Toronto area. And there are about 49 students on IEP, probably a little bit more than that get added every day, and about 58% of our students are ESL. And we're ranked about 75 on the Learning Opportunities Index, which basically is a measure of external challenges that our students face, including poverty and their family background and ESL, so challenges that might affect their learning. And you can see this is kind of the pocket in Toronto that they live, but and even though around them there's a lot of very affluent housing, most of our students live in this apartment complex called the Lotherton Village, and 21 to 42% of our families are living below the poverty line. And so they come with a lot of challenges. But we are very blessed. Our administrators in the present and past have provided us with a lot of technology, and so our students have access to a lot of technology in our classrooms. And we have noticed a significant improvement in their learning and their academic achievement over the years as teachers are trained and as we use technology to enhance their learning. And so what we're sharing with you today is some of the strategies that we have found extremely helpful with our students. And we believe that all students can learn mathematics when they have access to these high-quality mathematics instruction. So not only do we give them technology tools, but all of our teachers and our staff go through a lot of math training. Many of them have math AQs, and we believe very strongly in the importance of teaching instruction in mathematics to not only improve their math achievement, but also their language achievement. And we've seen that over the years in their report cards as well as in the EQAO scores. And so one of the big factors we found when we were teaching mathematics was that in teaching, co-teaching was very, very important and very helpful. So this is just a few of the teachers that I co-teach with. And what co-teaching is when 2 or more teachers are delivering instruction at the same time in the same physical space to a group of students. So just curious, how many out there actually teach in a co-teaching setting or have in the past? If you can just put a check mark so I have an idea of how many of you guys co-teach. Yeah, so not very many of you. So I just wanted to go through this benefits and challenges. I'm not sure if you guys can anticipate, but when you're teaching in the same classroom as a teacher, another colleague, can you envision any benefits to this as well as any challenges having not experienced that? Those who have experienced it might have more ideas, but those who haven't, what can you imagine being some benefits and challenges to this co-teaching model? Yes, definitely. So you can have 2 teachers in the room and one doing a guided group as well as having another group circulating and helping the other students. Interesting. So one person put that teaching styles may differ and put that in as a challenge, and it's true. It sometimes is a challenge when you have different teaching styles. But as another person has put in the benefits column, I also feel that that's also a strength because we bring in different strengths and complement one another exactly. Whoever wrote that down is exactly how we have found it too. And especially with Rhea and myself, Rhea will always say that she's very, very strong orally. She's a great storyteller, and she doesn't feel as strong in the technology area. Whereas I feel very, very comfortable in technology and math, and would not be as comfortable in the oral language storytelling that she brings to the table. And she's excellent in drama and dance, and so she brings that extra bit of flavor that the kids really enjoy. Yeah, sometimes if you don't have the same philosophy for teaching, you might end up with some conflict. yes, co-planning makes for better and more deliberate lessons, and that is a huge part of what we found that co-teaching brings to the table, is that you're intentionally thinking about your lesson and you have another person to think through that with. But again, finding that time to plan together is very, very challenging. So thanks for sharing. These are all great thoughts about co-teaching. And what we have found was that technology helped to overcome some of these challenges, especially in the time to plan together. Not necessarily in the philosophies and values, but definitely in the logistics of co-teaching. We found that technology has really, really changed our practice. And I wanted to share a little bit about sorry about the cutting off whoever was writing, but I wanted to share some of the research behind co-teaching, why we thought co-teaching was very important when coming to differentiated learning, especially in math instruction. Now, I know this research study is a little bit older. It's in 1997, but there were a few very important benefits that came from this study that was very key to co-teaching in a special education classroom that was integrated. And 4 of those major benefits came that students with special needs grew in confidence and self-esteem, improved in academic performance and social skills, as well as peer relationships. And these were in 18 elementary schools and 7 middle schools. Now, Susan, if you don't mind putting in the other research paper as well, that one's a little bit more recent in 2004. And if you actually look, there's quite a few literature on co-teaching and the benefits of co-teaching and how, especially in special education classrooms or integrated classrooms, these are especially co-teaching is especially beneficial and helps in improving student performance. So I wanted to share some strategies that we found to help in making co-teaching a little bit easier and actually really, really fun. And one area is actually in planning. So in my previous lifetime, I was an accountant, and I really, really like spreadsheets. So you'll find that I bring in spreadsheets quite a bit. But this is just a spreadsheet that we used for our long-range plan. And because it was in Google Docs, it allowed us to be able to immediately share our plan. So this is a grade 4, 5, 6, and you'll notice that because I was teaching grade 5, 6, it actually extended to grade 4, and eventually we actually had to open another column for grade 3. But in the planning process, I was able to focus on certain grades and certain strands, while my colleague would fill in the boxes for the other grades and the other strands, and we were able to kind of see that continuum. But I didn't have to build it on my own. My colleague was able to, Rhea was able to add to this, and the other grade 5 and grade 6 teachers added to it, made planning a lot easier. And then when we were done as a junior division in terms of our long-range plan, we just submitted it, shared this with our principal, and it was easy to adjust and modify without having to send a million emails back and forth of the most latest version. So that made long-range planning a lot easier. And not only that, once we created this, it was easy to modify for the following year because we could just make minor adjustments to this document, or create an extra tab and just copy it and then make the adjustments so that we could refer to the previous year. This is another example of how we do planning. This is a week plan. So because we're co-teaching, it's important for us to be able to see each other's schedules. And my colleague would always jump in and look at this plan, and especially with our math. So you can see that our math tasks, I would put in what we were planning to do, and my colleague would see this right away. And so Rhea would say, oh, we're working on two-digit multiplication, and then I'll teach this lesson and Sandra will teach the next lesson. And we could kind of work through with that and share our ideas. And you'll notice from week to week, we just keep adding on. So if I forgot what I did in previous weeks, I can tab through to the previous weeks and see what was done. We can leave comments. So when you actually just right-click on one of the cells, you can actually add a comment and leave notes and reminders for each other. And by just simply typing in a plus as well as the person's email of my colleague, so Rhea would get an email and say, oh, Sandra left you a message on this particular day. have a look. And then it made just planning from a week-to-week basis a lot easier as well. This is, so for Ainsley's question, I had one full class, but normally in the past, the spec ed students were pulled out of the math classroom, and she would take them, a small group of them, and work with them. But what we decided to do was we co-taught our math class so that the special education students were integrated directly into the regular classroom, and we co-taught the math class together, and that's how it worked. Does that answer your question, Ainsley? The other way we found planning really helpful was on a unit-by-unit basis, we would use Google Docs. And why we liked Google Docs is it allowed us to put in more details about each lesson. So this is more like a unit plan. Now, this is not specifically math related, but you can see the kind of how we can share the ideas. We're able to put in details in each lesson, include links. So if you think about in the past how lesson plans used to work, you might write it up and then say, oh, this is a great resource. You might staple a worksheet or something. But in this case, all you need to do is put a link. So if there's a video you want to include, if there's an activity or a game that was really effective, as you're planning the unit, you just kind of include it in the docs, and it makes your unit plans a lot smoother and a lot easier to work through. And so that, again, makes co-teaching a lot easier. And then in terms of logistics, seating when it comes to differentiated instruction is really important. So where a student sits and changing them from week to week or month to month was very important in our classroom. And so we started using Google Slides for seating plans. And you can see that each slide was our entire classroom. And the next slide was a different iteration of our classroom. And if there was anything we wanted to change, we would actually put in a comment. So you can insert a comment, and I'll show how you do that later when we do our hands-on example of the math. But you can insert comments into Google Slides. And so let's say we move one student from here to the front of the classroom. We can write our comments and why we move them. And when we come to another iteration of seating plans, we have those notes in there already. Or I might make a seating plan at home at night and then tell Rhea about it, and she can look at it and the next morning or even in the evening say, no, 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 that's not right, and she'll readjust it. So it just made the seating plan a lot easier, and throughout the whole year you can see kind of the change of how your seating goes from month to month or week to week, and just all the iterations that you have. And sometimes you can say, oh yeah, why don't we put those two together again? And you have all those notes to back that up. And so that's just another idea. And then, of course, assessment was really, really important. And then we would go back to Google Sheets for that, where you can see I have my math patterning, my number sense, my measurement, my geometry and data. But because we're sharing this document, it makes the understanding of our students a lot easier to track and monitor. And because there's two of us on this document, we knew exactly where the students needed work on. We had two teachers basically on top of the students, knowing exactly what areas they were weak on. And when it came to parent-teacher interview, if my colleague was not able to make a meeting, it didn't matter because I had all of the notes right there. Even though Rhea wasn't in the meeting, I have all of her notes that she wanted to remind me to talk to a certain student about right there. And likewise, if there was for some reason a meeting that I couldn't make, she also had the notes. And so co-teaching became a lot easier because we had these documents to work with. And then finally, even with file sharing in Google Drive, we found differentiation a lot easier. All of our IEPs were shared on the drive. Maybe our comments were shared there. So if we wanted to use comments from one student to another, we just created a Google Docs and say, you know, these are some comments that are really, really great. Look at this, and other teachers can see samples and models without having to go into the IEP system, which can be quite challenging to navigate through sometimes. And it's shared all within our own Toronto District School Board domain, so we know it's safe and no other public can get to it. And it just made for co-teaching a lot easier and collaboration a lot easier. So these are just some of the tools that we found were really, really helpful in making teaching our students more easy when it came to differentiated instruction. Now we're going to go into our problem solving and how we found that Google really, really helped us with that. Before we start, I'm just wondering how many of you were in my first 2 sessions, or one, maybe my first session actually. Oh yeah, if you could just put a check mark if you were at my first session. Okay, so this is going to be very similar in style to my first session in terms of how I use Google Slides. The difference is this time I'm really going to focus on the tools of how my students the tools that we focus on when we wanted to do differentiated instruction. So again, Susan put in the link for the problem that we're going to work on today. And I'm not sure if this will work well, but we're going to try it. I'm going to share my screen right now. So you can all click on this food shortage problem on the chat window. And I'm going to share my screen so you can actually see my Google Doc.
Sandra, it looks like we need permission on that document.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me just change that. Thank you. I'll change that right now. Okay, if you can just refresh, you'll be able to access it. Oh no, I'm on the wrong one. No, let me do that again. Okay, sorry about that. So if you refresh, you should be able to access that now. Okay, so can everyone, I hope everyone can see my screen. So this is a problem based on food shortage. And before we start, we would often show the students a video. Now I'm going to show, instead of the World Hunger video, I'm just going to show the video about buying a goat and how that helps. So.
Familia ilikuwa mavuno madogo, pia ilikuwa naweza kuta mazao kidogo nayapata, naweza kwa sababu nipate maziwa kwa ajili ya watoto. Ilikuwa na mawazo sana kwa maisha ya kila siku kwamba itafanya kesho.
Tofauti kabisa kipindi cha kabla sijapata mradi, nilikuwa watoto wangu walikuwa wanataka maziwa, nilikuwa nateseka naenda kununua maziwa kwa chupa, kwa kikombe. Lakini kwa sasa hivi tangia niwe nakamua,
naweza kupata maziwa kutumia mpaka na kuuza. Unapata mahitaji madogo. Familia ilikuwa tayari sio kama sasa. Wakati hapo baada ya kunywa maziwa. Nalima mahindi, maharage, miwa, mgomba, mihogo na mbari. Mbari kutaonyesha. Wakati tumia mbolea, ndipo tunapata maji sahihi. Baada ya kupata mbolea ndio kama naona hivi. Baada ya kutumia mbolea.
Sana kila wakati, hata kwa mazingira yalivyokuwa nayo hapa bado sijaridhika, maana mazingira yangu yako chini sana. Ila ni kila siku naomba.
So I'm just going to stop the video there.
Sandra, can I interrupt for just a second? We're not able to really watch the video when you do it that way. All we're seeing is the screen being refreshed over and over. It's not video. So if we're going to watch any more of it or another one, can we do the link instead?
Yeah.
So they have the slideshow open already on their own desktop, so they could watch the video themselves.
Okay, I don't actually have any more videos.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So because Rhea and I were so passionate, we're very passionate about social justice and having the students understand that the world that they're in, we often started our problem solving or our math tasks, with a hook and something that's happening in real life to engage them with the math problem that they will be doing. And so today's math problem that you guys will be working on is learning to solve, we'll be focusing on this idea of a goat and how much you can actually feed with, how much you can help with just this goat. And our goal today is actually using problem-solving strategies to be able to identify these, to be able to solve this problem. So we're going to use a variety of strategies and tools and communicate using illustration, calculation, and words. And we often use the terminology ICES with our students. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with ICE, but we added the S to ours because I being illustration, C for calculation, E for explanation, and then our students often forgot to finally state what the solution was. So we added the S at the end to say what their solution was. So we use the acronym ICES for that. And so these are some of the key things that we use when we're solving our problem. And then this is the success criteria that we work through with our students and we build upon throughout the year. Usually starting off with highlighting the question in the very beginning because we want them to be able to break down the problem. A lot of our students have trouble actually even understanding or comprehending what the problem is asking them because they're not able to break down and understand what it's saying. So the highlighting is usually one of the first things we have the students focus on. And that's what we'll have you focus on first as well. So before I move on, if I can, I'm not sure if this will work, but we're going to try it. So if we can actually have 2 people per slide. So I know we're kind of in not face-to-face, but I want to see how this works. Now, how you can communicate with each other is just go to the top, there's a text box, and then just create a text box on the side, and you can even fill it yellow, and that will be your means of chatting with each other, even though you don't have voice to be able to chat with each other. And as soon as there's 2 people on a slide, then move on to the next slide, and you'll have to find another partner. So if you write your name in, and another person writes their name, that's a pair. You've made a pair. And then you can go to the next slide and try to create a pair. Now with your pair, what I'd like you to do is break down the problem using the highlighting tool. And you'll see that it says character, action, math words, and question. So in order to highlight a word, all you need to do is click on the text, and you'll see that once you click on it, there's a text box, text color comes up. And there's always 2 options, text and highlight. So you're going to use the highlight tool, and you can see you can highlight it different colors. So character can be one color, action can be a different color, and we often tell the students to use different colors so that they can identify the different types of words that are there and that they can break down the problem using these highlighting tools. And this is a very effective tool for our students because it's visual. You can see how I've highlighted the problem. So go ahead with your partner, see if you can highlight the problem together and identify the character, the action, the math words, and question. And if you guys are trying to chatting and collaborating, use that text box that you have just created to chat with each other. Now, my students oftentimes, when they're working at home on some problems, they'll do the same thing as what you guys are doing, except that they would have already had their pairs created in class, and they would have already claimed their slides. But at home, they would chat the similar way that I just taught you using the text box. So you'll see that it becomes a really, really great tool to collaborate when you have Google Slides. So I see Laura and Drew have already started.
Sorry, I'm not sure how to find a partner. How do I do that, on this screen or my own Google Docs screen?
So just pick a slide. So let's say you pick slide 10. Write your name in there, and then another person will join in and add a name. So, yeah, so Michelle and Judy, I'm actually going to write your names up here.
Not sure how to write my
Michelle and Judy. Who is this speaking?
I'm sorry, it's Lily. I'm not sure how to write my name from the screen that we're working from.
Okay, so you'll have to go and click on the Google Slides, the link from the chat window, and open the Google Slides to the food shortage problem on the Google Slides. So you can't stay on the Collaborate window. You actually have to go to the food shortage problem. Does that make sense, Lily?
When you click on the, I'm gonna just mention this to Linda as well, because I think Linda joined later. So you click on the link that I just posted, and that's going to open up a Google slideshow in your own browser. So you'll have two different things open. You'll have the Blackboard Collaborate window, but you'll also have your browser open. If the link doesn't work in your chat, then copy the link and open a window in your browser and paste the link into your address bar and hit return, and that should open up the slideshow.
I'm just going to kind of compliment Michelle and Judy on their collaboration over here. I love how they copied and pasted my examples of character, action, math words, and question, and they're using the same colors that I have used to help them break down their problem. And you'll find that my students often do the same thing. And of course, you don't have to use those colors, but my students actually copied the success criteria right into their slides to help them focus on what they need to do. And that, again, is just the power of Google Slides. They're able to take the success criteria, incorporate it into their slides, and work on it. I can see that Laura and Drew are working on theirs, and you'll notice that when you're changing the text color, sorry not to pick on you guys, it is a little bit more challenging to see, whereas the highlighting tool allows you to still see the words, but you're highlighting the colors. So you can try and see which one you like better, but there's just kind of the difference between using the text color as well as the highlight color. And obviously the kids sometimes just use text color, but you can decide, again, on your own. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so once you have done the coloring portion, and you can see that as a teacher, I can hop into any slide, see how Lisa and Mallory are doing, see how Paula and Lily, yay, Lily, you're in, and just see how their students are coming along. And even at a glance in the thumbnail, I can see that, for example, Michelle and Judy are doing really well, so I might not need to support them as much. But I might need to come in on this student and make sure that they know how to do things. So as a teacher, the Google Slides allows you to peek in. Also, you'll notice that at the top of my screen, I have a bunch of little creatures, and it shows up as anonymous bat, anonymous buffalo, and that's because a lot of you aren't in my domain, whereas Anique is probably part of TDSB, and so I can actually see her name. So when you're in your own classroom as a domain, you'll notice that you can actually see the students' names, and at a click, you can actually go to their slide. So if I click on Anique right here, it'll bring me right to her slide, and I can see how she's doing. So you know how you have those marker students that you want to watch out for? So again, I'm not picking on anyone in particular, but if I know I have to watch Anonymous Dolphin there. I can click on Anonymous Dolphin and make sure that they're on the right track. And if they're not, then I can actually physically walk to them and make sure that they're on the right track when they're working on the math tasks. I can see that this group over here, they're just flying and already solving the problem. Now, After highlighting and breaking down the problem, the other thing that I have students do is create a what you know box. And in a what you know box, what we do is we again create this text box. And everything that they have just highlighted and broken down, we now want them to summarize what they've highlighted and synthesize it to what question, what is the problem that they need to solve? What do they know and what is it that they need to solve? And yes, it's already in their problem, but writing it in their what you know box allows them to reiterate and really think about what they have to do in a problem. So if you're done the highlighting portion, now create a what you know box and go about doing that. And that's another strategy that we found really, really helpful with our students, where first they highlighted the problem, broke it down, and now they're synthesizing their ideas. After that, and I know some of you guys are ahead, they start illustrating and figuring out strategies that they're going to calculate and calculate their solution. So some of them might choose to use manipulatives. So it's a goat, and I saw that somebody already included an image of a goat. So very easily, and I'm going to demo it over here, you can insert, go to Tools, sorry, not go to Insert, and insert an image. And the nice thing about Google Slides is you can just search and type in goat. And you know, the kids don't need to spend forever drawing a goat and wasting 5 minutes of the math class drawing a goat. It's right there, they've created it, and now they've already got a manipulative. If they want to duplicate this goat, they can. And in this case, you know, you might have people as well. So instead of looking for a person, I could also just use circles to represent a person. And duplicating is very easy. You can either right-click and copy and paste, or what I found was if you just press Control-D, it's a lot faster. And so you can highlight 2 circles and press Control-D. And it allows you to all of a sudden create manipulatives really, really easily. Again, if you want to, so we know that 1 goat feeds 6 people. So I might just delete these 8, and there's 1 goat for 6. So I've already got my grouping, and I can group this together, and again, press Control-D, and I can do this as many times as I want. I could do it 40 times if I want. So you can see how easy it is to create manipulatives and visuals for students. I see that right over here we've got students who are using, so Jan, great work, using an unique, a table. So how easy it is for students to all of a sudden create a table, not worrying about the ruler. The table is just right into the, again, I'm going to use the demo too so I don't interrupt their work. Go to Insert, and then you can just create a table 2 by 4, and you've got a table right away. So again, the students are able to capitalize on these tools that are available in Google Slides to create that. I noticed that some people went straight to just multiplication. And again, you can use the text feature, align tools. So I can see that this group used align tool to be able to create the multiplication, and it becomes really, really easy to do. Sometimes my students like using, and we like to encourage this, we like them to use number lines. And you could create your own number line using the line tool and putting hashtags all across. But I find that really, really cumbersome. Another easier way instead is just to use, again, the image tool, type in number line, and all of a sudden you've got access to tons of number lines. And I find that a lot more effective for students. And so we teach them these strategies where they insert number lines and then use that. And you can be more specific if, that just didn't work. You can be more specific about what kind of number lines you want. So you can say 5 to 5 or whatnot. But so you can see how easy it is to add number lines. You can also change the background of a particular slide as well, and include a backdrop. So let's say you want to do a grid. You can change the background, And when you change it, just make sure you don't add it to theme because it will change everybody's background. Instead, just click done. But you choose an image, and let's say you want to add a grid of some sort, just to organize your thinking. You can add a grid and press select. And again, remember not to click add to theme, but just press done. And that allows your own slides to have a grid, whereas other people's background stays the same. So, wow, some great problem solving going on right now and collaboration. Well done, Laura and Drew. You can see how amazing Google Slides can be. You guys are in 2 different locations, one person in another house, and yet you guys are able to collaborate and solve this math. I can see you guys collaborating right here and talking to each other. Amazing. This is so easy. A goat, 40. Well done, well done. Really impressive. So if you actually scroll all the way down to the bottom of these slides, and you go, I kind of created more, go to slide 63, and an easy, oh yeah, I'll show you later, but if you go to slide 63, you can see all of my students' examples, all of Rhea and my students' examples. So you can see that some of them actually just created number lines, they have their what you know box, they're highlighting. Some of them actually created a graph. We have a table, and then number lines, and of course just drawings. So you can just see some of the work that they did. This one we found particularly creative. They used the insert image tool, created a hundreds chart, and then just added by 6 using these boxes. So that was a really, really creative way to use the manipulative and to solve the problem. And then when we consolidate our learning, we take advantage of the commenting tool. So even while the kids are working, I might use the commenting feature and add a comment. Actually, you know what? I might just comment on some of your work up there. And so I want to teach you another really great tool. If you press Control F, I can go straight to Laura. I know Laura's there. I know her, so I'm gonna pick on her. But I can go straight to Laura's slide and click on Add Comment and say, I really like how you broke down your problem and created your what you know box. And then give comments along the way to encourage the students and to help them move them further along. In this case, you know, Laura and Drew might want to work on, okay, now that you know 1 goat feeds 6, this problem talks about 40. How are we going to work that out now? And so I can also include that in my comment to them. When we consolidate, even in our discussions, what I share with my students, I include it in a comment box so that our discussion is captured in the slide. And if the students are referring back to this work later on at another time in the Google Drive, they can say, oh, I remember we did that goat problem, and Laura and Drew did a great job of solving it, and I can't remember what it was. They can go back, look at our comments, look at what we talked about in our classroom as we were consolidating the work, and all of that is captured. So any of our students, no matter how their learning style, they're able to refer back to the learning that we have done previously. And so that is our Google Slides. I'm going to move back to our presentation now, and if there's any questions about that, please feel free to kind of put that in the chat box as you guys are discussing. I'm just checking if I missed anything. Lisa, did you find out where we got the goat? It was through the insert image tool, and you just find goat. Once you insert image, you can search and find a goat. Okay, thanks. Okay, is there anything else I missed? Great, you guys were helping each other out, sorry, in the chat too. So now I'm going to go back to the our presentation. And that kind of just gave you a taste of how we use Google Slides in our math class.
Can you let us know how you did the number line one more time?
Yeah, no problem. So you just go to Insert, and while I'm waiting for it to go to Insert Image. Once you type in Insert Image, it allows you to search. So click on the tab on the top that says Search, and then you just type in number line, and you'll see a whole bunch of number lines pop up. Did that work?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
So you can see again, there's tables, there's text boxes, images, teacher feedback. You can include several group members in one slide. So oftentimes we have students work in 3. Most of the time when we do these math tasks, we're in person. There's 3 students on one computer, or sometimes we actually have 3 computers if we're able to have one-on-one. And, you know, for example, Sadat might have a computer, Megan would have a computer, and Aaron would have a computer, but they're sitting next to each other, so they're talking verbally, but then also working on the slides at the same time and breaking up the work. So you can see the collaboration that's going on while they're solving this problem. And at the very bottom, sometimes in the presenter's notes section, we use that space to include bonus activities for some of our students who might be fast finishers. So they've already finished solving how many goats I needed to feed a family of, how many families 40 goats would feed. Now, how much, if each goat cost $75, how much money would we have to raise at Chez Public Schools? So again, putting these extra, using the extra space in slides allows us to really expand the thinking and reach the different levels that we have. We embed videos a lot of times for Minds On, but we also include it as a consolidation and share. So there may be, you know, this video could have worked really, really well at the very end as well, where we gave the problem and then at the very end share about this video and the impact that this goat can really have on the village and use that as a summative. Now, when we're serving the menu, serving our math is kind of what we mean by serving the menu. Authentic tasks are very important to us. And I shared this in my previous 2 sessions, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper into some of these other areas. So I shared about Google News and how you can use a newspaper article, or Newsella. Newsella is a really great website, and thank you, Susan, for putting in all those links. Newsella actually allows you to search up Google newspaper articles, but in various reading levels. So even though you might find an article about the polar caps, ice caps, and how they're shrinking, and it's shrinking at a rate of, I don't know, 2% a year, Newsella would have that article, but at different reading levels, and the students can then choose that reading level that fits them. So that's a really, really great tool. Teaching Kids News is also a really good website. The nice thing about Teaching Kids News is you can go in there and it'll tell you teaching points about the article, and from there, then you launch into really meaningful problems. So you can see this is just an advertisement from the Calgary Herald using Google News. It's from 1947, but what kind of questions can you ask students just from this newspaper article or this advertisement? Can you think of a math problem that comes up? And yes, Newsella is free. Can you think of a math problem you can do with this grocery ad? Maybe you just type it in the chat box, or you can use the microphone too. Compare prices. Thanks, Sue. Definitely. So the cost of carrots versus the cost of new cabbage. Yes, I love that Venn diagram comparison. What can we include in terms of just what's similar, what's different? Good. Just simple math, multiplication or ratios. 15 pounds. How much would it cost? You can do inflation, unit price, graphs, past and present, right, exactly. And then, so there's tons of rich problems that can come from very authentic, oh, I love that, conversion from material, from just real sources that kids can be more excited about than just a problem about pencils or candy from the textbook. And as teachers, I think it's important for us to be interested in what the students are interested in and make math meaningful and authentic for them so that they can see that, hey, math is actually used throughout in everything that we do. And when we're differentiating our math, I think that's really important, helping to see the interest of our students. And so I'm going to focus on Google Trends and Google Public Data Explorer once more. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about Google Trends this time. When you go into Google Trends, I'm going to actually, again, share my screen. And go into Google Trends here. So when you go into Google Trends, right off the bat, you can actually see some trends that are showing, and you can discuss this with our students. These are rankings, first, second, third. It'll talk about past 24 hours. These are actually graphs that are listed right here. And you know, Toronto Raptors is trending in number 4 in the past 24 hours. Have this discussion with the students. Why? Why is it trending? Why is it in the past 24 hours it all of a sudden shot up like that? Why are the graphs? Compare these different graphs here and have a discussion with the students about this very, very real data. You can also go to the side and what's trending on YouTube. Is that any different? So that is just stories, but do the trends on YouTube look similar? And then, you know, look, they're different stories. And then you can also compare it by USA and compare it with Canada. And see, well, what kind of trends does US have and what kind of trends does Canada have? Are they similar? Are they different? Look at the numbers. 3 million global views on YouTube. And how come past 24 hours is more popular, but then this is, in the past 24 hours, number 2 was more popular, but number 3 actually has more views. Why does that happen? Have the students discuss that and talk about real data and explain that with them. I'm actually going to come back to the chat window. If you guys can actually go in the chat window and type some things that you know your students are actually interested in. What are some things that the kids talk about in your class? Hockey, thank you. What else? Pokemon cards, soccer. Yes, I have a lot of students who love soccer. Baseball. Shopkins, thank you. I love that you guys are really into the pop culture as well. So I'm going to take some of the things that you guys have shared, and I'm going to pop that into Google Trends right now. And you can see, we're going to compare and see which ones are actually popular and trending worldwide and have that discussion with students. So actually, this is in Canada because I've already clicked on Canada. So let's put in Shopkins. I'm kind of interested myself. Oops. I should put in Shopkins, not Shopkins. Yeah, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to type in Shopkins. So there's my first search term. So you can see up until May 2014, 0 Shopkins interest. All of a sudden, it shot up, and the highest was December 2015. Now, it's important to notice, if you go over to this question mark, the numbers represent search interest relative to the highest point. It doesn't represent the number of searches. So even though this says 100, it doesn't mean there were only 100 searches on Shopkins. That's just the highest point relative. So the highest was in December 2015. Now I'm going to add in soccer. How many, check mark if you think soccer will be higher than Shopkins. I'm just going to clear that. Check mark if you think soccer will be higher than Shopkins. More interest than Shopkins. Okay, so most people think soccer will be more. So I'm going to add a term now. We'll see whether you guys are right. Oops. No. What happened? I may have to, 1 second. Sorry. soccer. Okay, soccer as a term, and you're right, way higher. So if you were comparing Shopkins to soccer, Shopkins was like at 2. Look how much higher soccer is compared to Shopkins. Let's add one more term. I'm going to clear this. Let's add Minecraft. It'd be interesting to see where Minecraft fits in. How many of you guys think Minecraft will be higher than soccer? Oh, maybe you think Minecraft will be higher. Okay, let's see where you guys are at. Let's see if you're right. You see how engaged the kids will be to find out. You can have votes. You can do so much data management. And you're right, Minecraft totally exceeds soccer, but not until 2011. And again, you can have this really rich discussion with students. Why was it that before 2011, it wasn't higher? Soccer was higher. And have those discussions with students. Yes, soccer includes football. So again, Google Trends is really, really interesting. Now I'm going to scroll down and let you see what else this Google Trends allows you to see. You can see the view and change over time. You can also allow you to see by region. So Shopkins right now is what I'm clicked on. You can see really popular in Canada, United States, and Australia, as well as over here in UK. But all these other places are pretty dark and dim. Let's go to soccer. And you'll notice Uganda actually has a really, really high group over here of search terms. Again, these are search terms. So that's even interesting to know that in Uganda there's such a high amount of interest on the internet to search up about soccer. And then Minecraft. Wow, how interesting to know that Minecraft actually has invaded many various countries around the world. And Australia is #1, not Canada or US. So again, very, very interesting data that the kids would be really interested to go through. And you can even go through related searches and talk through with your students about that. So Google Trends is just a really fantastic place to find information. I'm just going to check and see if there's anything I missed. The next one I wanted to show you was Google Public Data Explorer. So again, the link was on earlier. This one is a website that really allows you to see rich data that you can tie in with social studies, with science, and you can do geography and humanities, history. There's just a lot of really rich information that are real data that you can have discussions with students to integrate the curriculum. So here you can see fertility rates and life expectancy rates. I'm just going to go right into this one because it's a really interesting, sorry, this is not what I wanted. I just didn't click. I'm going to go right back into it again. I want the fertility rate one. And you can see that there's very different types of graphs. This one is fertility rate by life expectancy. If you press the play button, you can see from 1961 the change in life expectancy versus fertility rate. And these are the kind of the different countries. So if you want to focus on a different, if you want to take off a certain country, you can focus on it. So there's North America, there's Middle East, right? Latin America. You can also change the graphs. So this one here, Niger has really high fertility rates. And then you can also go into a map view and see, again, where the fertility rates are and talk about what, how these graphs look, why are they different? What does it mean? have these discussions with students. And you can just see on the side, you have everything from environment to education. You can do, if you're doing an eco-schools kind of initiative, talk about CO2 emissions, electric power consumption. If you're doing a government unit, you can talk about GDP per energy, land use if you're talking about geography and population growth rates, water pollution, death rate, health, financial sector, and talk about financial literacy. There's just so many ways you can integrate the curriculum using real-life data and then incorporate math into this, into the learning. So these were just some things I wanted to show you. Were there any questions about those two websites before we go back to the presentation? I would say Google Trends is a lot easier with the younger students. Public Data Explorer would be more ideal when junior is pushing it. You can probably focus on the bar graphs with the junior grades, or maybe just use it. I mean, this is where differentiation happens, right? You can have bar graphs with some of your medium to lower students, and then have your more brighter students work on the more challenging graphs in the Public Data Explorer. And then the older grades, you can do so many things with the Public Data Explorer. With Google Trends, the type of graph in Google Trends is very limiting. Does that answer your question, Lily? Okay, so just other strategies we use, I'm going to kind of take us away from the authentic problem, is modeling. Now, of course, you can always include, similar to that problem that we did today with the goat, I could have included one slide in there with a model answer of how to solve that goat problem. And that might be really helpful for some of my students who just don't know where to go at all. I might include a teacher model answer, and then they can mimic it and use that. And that's how you can differentiate the learning for students. Or you can just leave it blank and have the students be able to model for each other. So in this case, you can see, sorry about how the PowerPoint's cut off, but it basically says student modeling. And you don't provide any teacher modeling. And because the students can see everybody's work, and you guys were able to see each other's work when we were doing that problem, you can see that students start to look at each other and say, oh yeah, I forgot to highlight the problem. That's what we should focus on. So they start to help each other to focus. Oh, I need the what you know box. Oh, I really like how they broke down their sections and did a key and a solution, and just how neat they did that. I need my solution to be more organized. And so all of a sudden, not only are you teaching math skills, but you're also teaching organization skills for the students, collaboration. They don't know how to solve a problem. Oh, I really like how they did the circle and then put the numbers in there. That's an effective way to really show my thinking. That's efficient. So they learn shortcuts and tricks from each other. I learned tricks from the students that I would not have thought of. Like I loved how actually one of you guys did the goat and then just put the number in there. How brilliant was that? So student modeling becomes a really important way for all the students to feel like they can be, they have something to share with other students. And I always like to highlight what students are doing well, not necessarily the right answer, but what part of a problem is really being tackled in a really effective way, and focus on those strategies and share those strategies so that you're not always just sharing what the right answer is, but what the right thinking and strategies are amongst all of these all of these answers that you guys have given, and let's use all of your different answers to build one really great answer, and that every student is heard and listened to. The success criteria is also something that the students begin to model and add to, and we, yeah, go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead, just type it in the chat. But all the students begin to share in building that success criteria. So you can see one day I actually forgot to put the success criteria in, and the students took it upon themselves to build their own success criteria. So they included the breaking down the highlights, breaking down the problem, highlighting, make a what you know box, and ISIS. But what they ended up adding were strategies that the students also really liked. Use your own ideas, look at others' work for help, and use math words. We actually ended up using their success criteria slide and copied it into all future problems as our success criteria. And you can see that the students loved their success criteria that Lisa and I had built together during that night. They could still use highlighters on word problems and do the what you know one. Sorry, I missed. I'll let Lisa continue her thought while I go on. The other thing that we found that's really important to help students is the linking tool. So in your Google Slides, you're able to actually highlight text and then insert a link so that students can actually click to websites or click to virtual manipulatives. And I'm not going to go deeply into virtual manipulatives this time. You can actually go back to my part 2 sessions and watch those videos, and I go into various manipulatives that you can go to. Thanks, Susan, for putting in the links. But sometimes the kids need access to manipulatives, and they can still have the hands-on manipulatives on their table, but some of these virtual ones are really fantastic. There's one on equivalent fractions that I always talk about that I really love. The virtual library has great base 10 blocks that sometimes are just so much easier to work with than the hands-on ones, because it groups it into groups of 10s for them, so that there's no way that they're going to make a mistake and put 11 in their group by mistake, which really helps my students. So having these links to the manipulatives that you know will help the students right into the slide before I copy the problem is really important. So I'm just going to show you how I actually created the problems. And I'm going to share my screen right now. So when I go into Google Slides and I create my problems, oftentimes I come up with I type in the problem and the names and the template that I want the students to have. And then let's say I wanted to include a manipulative. I'll just say, I'll just create a text box, and then I'll say, oops, I'm just going to close that right there. Use this tool, okay, and then highlight it, insert the link, and then you can go to any website. So I'm just going to type in one here, illumination, equivalent fractions, and there it is. And I'm going to copy that link, and there's the manipulative right there, and put it back into my Google Slides. Oops. And paste it and apply. So now this is a link that will bring the students straight to the manipulative that I think will be helpful. Now it's not helpful for this problem, I'm just kind of using this as an example. Now if I press Control D, it copies this problem with the link. So anything I put on this slide is copied, and I can press Control D many times, and this problem is all of a sudden duplicated 6 times within 2 seconds. So you can see how quickly you can multiply your problems just by using the Control D feature. I'm just going to come back to our slideshow presentation. And I use this tool a lot. And any link that you can include for the students, especially from some of my students who can get really confused very easily, if you include the link, all of a sudden you're taking one layer away that makes it easier for them to work through. And so that's part of making things a lot easier for the students. The other thing is we give students choice when they do their problems, so we might not just give them one problem, but many types of problems that they can work on. This is just an example of decimal games, and I had 4 different games that they could work on, and they had a choice. They could work on adding decimals, comparing decimals, or ordering decimals, but they were just practicing decimals, and they can choose which game they wanted to play. And then basically, whoever had the highest score, they just write their name there, and at the end of the class, whoever had the highest name and the name with the highest score was the winning student. But it could be, we have 4 different winning students. So just including choice and student voice for them allows them to be able to work on different tasks. When you assign a task, do you have one document with multiple slides of the same question? Yes, so sometimes when I have, let's go back to this example, I might have one slide and I would just duplicate several slides of one problem and duplicate another slide, or I would teach the students how to use Control-D, and they duplicate that slide that they want to work on, and then they write their name, and then they work on their own. So yes, so oftentimes I would have 2 different problems, and the students would then have a choice for that. This is just an example of how I created the problem, and it was already created for them. So Susan has already put in the link for you. So I'm going to launch it for you to see. I'm going to go back to application sharing. Okay, so in this patterning example, the kids were doing a patterning problem, and I created this table so that the students would work on different problems. And the kids didn't know this, but I knew this. I used just color coding. All the hot colors were easier problems, and all the cool colors were more challenging problems. And you can see I used the slide background to differentiate the problems. So all the yellow slides were problems that Anjali, Leah, and Can were working on. So they would first do a pattern sequence, then a pattern square sequence, and then a pyramid. All of the turquoise ones related to Aaron, Sadat, and Megan. And you'll notice that they're similar, but the numbers were just a little bit more challenging, so that I was differentiating the learning for them. So basically I just had 2 types of problems, the cool colors and the hot colors, and the kids just knew, okay, I have to do all the green slides, I have to do all the orange slides, and they started solving the problem right away. And then their goal was to solve their series of 3 problems by the end of class. And so this is just another way that you can use to differentiate the learning. In this case, the kids didn't have choice. I kind of decided for them. But the kids were very engaged and were able to solve the problem that way. Oops, sorry, just go back to this screen. Okay. Another way to kind of differentiate is you can see I would have green, yellow, and blue. All of the green slides would require every single student to have to do that slide. And once they completed it, they could optionally choose to do the yellow slides, the yellow problems. So they were related. This one was comparing. Then they were using number line to compare. And then if they were really keen, they could go into becoming a coach. And there were problems there that they could work on. So again, I duplicated all the green ones so that there was enough for every student. The yellow ones, again, I would duplicate enough for every student, and blue ones, I would often not do very many. But the students, again, had choice. They had to do all the green ones. They had the option to do yellow, but they didn't, and those who really wanted to could do blue. And this was also my way to naturally tell them, you know, green is what you need to know. This is level 3. You need to know this. And level 2, 3. And then yellow would be my level 3, 4 students, and then blue would be my level 4 students. And that was their way to even assess where they were at in their learning continuum. And you can see that they can provide feedback to each other as well using the slides. And the other thing about Google Docs is that the students never have to save, and that's a huge thing. A lot of the students even just in saving, would look everywhere just to say, oh, where do I save? Which folder do I save it to? Am I saving it into the right place? And then once they saved it, they couldn't find it. But the nice thing about Google Drive is you never have to save, and if you name your file properly, you can actually use, and I'm going to show you this really fun trick. I'm just going to go to my Google Drive. You can go to your Google Drive and just search a document. So if you go to Search Drive and I say food shortage, right away the problem pops up, and the students use that right away to find their documents, and it becomes so easy because if you name your documents in a way that's easy for the students to find, they can find it right away, and that is a huge time saver when it comes to just some of the students that we work with. I know time is coming to an end. I'm going to skip over the organization. We kind of shared a little bit about using tables and just links, but I wanted to talk a little bit about apps, extension, and add-ons and demonstrate some of that. So one of the biggest ones that we use is read and write goals, and that's because it allows for the students to be able to type with prediction, and it makes it a lot easier for the students to be able to not make language a barrier for math, because a lot of times the students are really great in math, but just because their language is not very strong, they think they're not good in math. And some of these apps and extensions takes that away so that they realize that it's not really their math abilities that are suffering, it's actually language. And so giving some of these tools allows them to feel comfortable and confident about their math, which is actually oftentimes really strong. So I'm going to, again, share my screen to show you some of these great extensions. Now, what an extension is it's an add-on to your Chrome browser. Firefox has extensions too. I do not recommend Internet Explorer. Sorry for those who are Microsoft fans, but their extensions are not really great. But this is a Chrome browser, and you'll notice on the top there are these little tabs. And these little tabs are extensions. And what extensions are little tools that make your browser more efficient. And one of these is called Voice Note. And this one is great. You can use Google Docs as well, and I'll demonstrate it. But if you click on this, you want to make sure you're in English. So you choose your language, and you can see there's French, and there's Chinese, which sometimes if you're in an ESL situation, have the students do it in their mother tongue, and then translate it. We're assessing their math, not their language. So again, if you have a brand new ESL student, have them use this tool. And hello, I'm just having my math session today with Ontario Teacher Federation. And you can see that it just types it out right away. And then the students can just copy that and then put it into, they can copy that and then put it into their Google Slides. And that's their solution. So that's Voice Note. You can also do that with Google Docs. So if they just open a Google Docs document, go to Tools and Voice Typing. Again, there's many different languages, and same thing. We're just demoing the use of speech recognition in Google Docs. And the kids, again, can copy and paste this into their slides or whatever it is that they're doing. Kaizena, oh, actually, before I do that, I also want to demonstrate read and write. Sometimes the kids can also use read and write goals and use the word prediction option to type it. So maybe their speaking is not very good, but they're good at typing. You can see that it comes out, the quick, and then they can use a word prediction tool to type out as well. So again, all of these tools are really fantastic for the language component so that students can explain their math thinking without it being a barrier. Kaizena is not an extension, but it's an application which allows you to give voice feedback. So great, you can do comment features on your problems, but the kids can't read it. So this allows you to actually read. You can see just microphone. Great job on your math problem. I loved how you identified the character and action in your problem. And then just stop. The kids can hear your message and they can reply back using Kaizena. So this is another really great application that just kind of takes that barrier of language away from the students, and they can focus on the mathematics. So I just highlighted a few of those tools. I know time is coming to an end, but you can explore those other tools that are there. Snagit, I won't actually show you, but I'll tell you what they are. Snagit is a screen capture tool. So you can actually have the students, instead of Screencastify, explain their thinking just with words. They can say it, but they can point to their screen and say, well, this is where the goat is, and these are the 6 people, and then explain their thinking and include that video link into their Google Slides so that you can hear their thinking about their problem. WR, word reference, is again just a translation tool. So for those who are in ESL situations, this allows for you to be able to understand what your students are thinking. They can use the dictionary to translate from English to French, French to English, Spanish to English. All of those tools are right there at their fingertips. And Susan's going to just put in the 2 links of my students and just some of the things that they really enjoy. You can see that the kids share that they like the immediate teacher feedback that Google gives, as well as read and write goals when they're working. And that's it. That's kind of our presentation. We just really love to make sure that the students are happy with what they're learning and satisfied, and that's kind of our motto. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. You can also contact my colleague, Rhea. I'll put her email there as well. Or actually, you know what? Why don't you email me, and then if you want to talk directly to Rhea, I'll send you her information. But if you have any questions, I'll still be hanging around if you have any, and I'll be right here.
Well, I agree with everybody in the chat. That was such a great presentation, Sandra. It was so creative. You're so passionate about these topics. You just talk and share so much in every minute of the presentation. I have to say that I was thrilled to hear you talking about all of the wonderful tools and extensions that allow kids to get through that barrier of not being good writers when they are, in fact, good mathematical thinkers. And that's sort of a pet peeve of mine, and I've heard a lot of teachers express that same concern. And you know, you really focused on learning about the students' thinking in math and helping them through any barriers they may have with language. So anyway, thank you so much for that. Thank you everyone as well for your comments and your questions and your responses. It was great to have lots of participation from our group tonight. That was excellent. So on this slide and also in the chat are a couple of important links. The first one on the slide and also in the chat is to the feedback survey. If you're an experienced OTFer, you know that we really value your feedback. This is the time of year when they're starting to look to next year in terms of asking this year's presenters back and looking for new facilitators. So, you know, your feedback is really critical in that. Also, once you do your feedback, there's an opportunity for 48 hours to print a certificate for the course, just in case you're still a person who's gathering paper copies of certificates. Lots of great OTF Connect sessions coming up. The link on the screen is active. It also was in the chat. This is a slide that has just a list of what's coming up until the end of April, and then we have May as well. And you can get that from the OTF website. Some great stuff, really quality people and quality sessions coming up. You probably know that if you have been taking or will take in the summer AQ course in math and technology, you can get most of your money back from the ministry, and the link is right there. I can also put that link in the chat that will give you that information. So just to finish off, Sandra, that was an awesome session. I loved your first one, and I love this one even more. And like Sandra said, she'll be hanging around for a little while, and I'll be here as well if any of you have questions. When you're finished, you will log out. You'll get another automatic link to the feedback survey, and you'll also get a link, an email with a link either later tonight or tomorrow to the recording of this session, which you can view yourself and you can share. And also everything that was shared in the chat, all of those links, that's also posted on the OTF website in the resources area. So you can just search for Sandra's sessions and you can get everything that was shared tonight. So I am going to finish now, and I'll let any of you who might have questions ask. Otherwise, you can log yourselves out. Thank you for coming, and good night.
So Judy, just to answer your question about how I organize my files, I can actually show you really quickly. Basically, I'm a little bit of a type A, so my files need to be really organized. But I have them by subject areas, and once I'm in my subject area, so I'll show you my math. So I archive. You can see when I archive, I use Z so that it shows up at the end of my list of folders. And it just, because the Z is just the end of the alphabet, it'll always go to the bottom. And so every year I'll archive all of my topics and put it into one folder. And then I'll take away the rights from my students so that they can't access these files. And then when I'm in math, you can see I organize it by strand. So this makes it easy for the students to access as well. They go in by strand, and once they're in by strand, then I have by date and by topic, so that they can actually refer back to them later on. And my students do. They go back to the topics. They sometimes, even while I'm planning a lesson, are actually watching me create the lesson because they're so excited about what I'm learning, what I'm doing next. So if that answers your question.